we are re-entering the old tribal world. But this time we're going to go through the tribal dance and the tribal dream wide awake. Global Village is not created by the motor car or even by the airplane. It's created by instant electronic information movement. The Global Village is at once as wide as the planet and as small as a little town where everybody is maliciously engaged and poking his nose at everybody else's business. The Global Village is a world in which you don't necessarily have harmony. You have extreme concern with everybody else's business and much involvement in everybody else's life. It's a sort of Ann Landers column writ large. And it doesn't necessarily mean harmony, peace, and quiet, but it does mean huge involvement in everybody else's affairs. And so the Global Village is as big as the planet and as small as the village post office.
I do believe he is a popularizer. I do believe in 5 years we will look back at this book and perhaps shrug our shoulders. I don't think it's of long or lasting influence.
In 1996, Wired magazine named him like the prophet of that magazine or of the digital era. In terms of his insights about media in general and how much his talk of electronic media really captures so much of what's true about the internet in general and social media in particular. Just his general take on media effects. A random example was his off-cuff comment in an interview that people don't read the newspaper, they submerge themselves in the newspaper like a daily bath.
Why should in the TV age scuba diving or skin diving suddenly become popular? I would say right offhand, the reason is very simple. TV watching is scuba diving.
And at the time, not many, we're talking the late 1960s, we're talking the 1970s, especially the late 1960s, there really wasn't a field of what we now call media ecology, which is, the study of just how influential our various media, the technologies, so the mediums, the content, the institutions, just how influential these things are on society and psychology.
For example, in the age of the information explosion, all the walls go out between age groups, ethnic groups, between family groups, national groups, between economies. The walls all go out. People suddenly have to adjust themselves to this new proximity, this new interrelationship. And merely to tell them that this has happened isn't very helpful. What they need to know is, if it is happening, what does it mean to me?
Considers social media. So, what does it intensify? Our connections with each other. All right, everybody being involved in everybody's business, Global Village. What does it recall? A more collectivistic society, a more group-based society. In his terms, a more tribal society. What does it obsolesce? Face-to-face communication. What does it flip into when taken to its extremes? Discord, right? The opposite of the connectivity, the opposite of the collectivity, all right? So, whether this is, an empirically observable or quantifiable analysis of media properties, no, but he wasn't trying to do that.
The medium I employ is the probe, not the package. That is, I tend to use phrases, I tend to use observations that tease people, that squeeze them, that push at them, that disturb them, because I'm really exploring situations. I'm not trying to deliver some complete set of observations about anything.
I think, we have all these, we seem to be on the cusp of all these, paradigm mutating technological changes, most of them centered around communication and information technology.
These technologies we play with create an inevitable chain of consequences. These consequences are inevitable only to people who are not paying attention to what's going on or to what they've done. You press a button and start something. It's not inevitable that you must press the button.
Mass surveillance to, the Internet of Things, which is microchips and tiny sensors embedded in everything around us, from roads to coffee makers to increasingly people. Apparently Swedes are all in on they're early adopters of the microchips implanted into the hand, to everything that's associated with the newest tech industry buzzword, the metaverse, which is virtual reality and augmented reality somehow made more immersive and unobtrusive. Whether that's us going around with, first the glasses that they're developing that will blend your view between virtual or augmented realities and the actual your surroundings, to the contact lenses that are now being prototyped, to holographic technology, to deep fakes.
When many of these kinds of developments begin to occur in many forms at once, at very high speeds, then it becomes easy to perceive the pattern. When things happen relatively slowly, it's like still shots on a film. If you look at them one at a time, it's very slow. You don't see very much change, but project them at a reasonable speed and the pattern of development becomes perfectly evident. We are now living in a world where things change so rapidly that anybody can spot the configuration, the pattern of change. And we're living increasingly in a world of pattern recognition instead of just classified and isolated items. The whole speed up has tended to make everything much more intelligible and understandable than in the past.
We're just on the cusp of all these technological changes that seem so profoundly surreal and worrisome. But what I think it will look like in 10 to 20 years, normal, mundane. I think that we will normalize it and we will make it all mundane. We're not on the verge of some, dystopic society. Just think of if you took some citizen from the 1800s or maybe even the 1920s and plopped him or her down, on the sidewalk at an intersection in a major city, right? It would be complete sensory overload and meltdown, right? But we don't even think about it. So I think it's going to look like, this, except, more hallucinatory.